Hello, hello, hello. So, someone recently sent me a message of encouragement since I'm preparing to start a job. As I read their words, something strange happened. I realized I'm not scared. I'm not afraid to work, or to learn, or to try something new. So, why is my body reacting with anxiety, nervousness, and dread? Then I realized that my fear wasn't the fear of doing, it was the fear of being late. I've never had what others call a real job, a normal job, or day job until now. Here I am, 23 and a half revolutions around the sun, about to start my first retail job. And the discomfort I feel isn't about the work itself, but about a timeline I've internalized without ever consciously agreeing to it. The anxiety I'm experiencing is less about starting and being a beginner, but more about my perception of time and the deadlines that society has drawn. We grow up surrounded by all of these invisible ladders. Start school at this age, go to university after graduating high school at 18, get a normal job after university, move out of your parents' house at this age, get married at that age, become a parent at this age, retire if you haven't died yet at that age, and so on and so on. A life ladder shaped like a checklist. Acquire certain skills and hit milestones at certain ages in a specific order, or else you're behind or not doing it right. In my state, you can legally start working a job as young as 14 years old with a work permit. Most of my peers started their first real retail or service jobs in high school or even early college. And because I watch many TV shows and movies where teenagers always seem to have jobs, wearing aprons and name tags, balancing school and shifts at the mall or local cafe, I just assumed this was universally true. I actually used to beg my mom to let me work as a teenager, but she forbid it and would tell me, "You're going to be working for the rest of your life, so don't do it while you don't have to." Okay, well, first, that sounds like a curse. I rebuke that energy. Keep those limiting beliefs away from me. When I started university, she told me the same thing and said school first, and the reason I'm at school is so I could get a job after graduation, anyways. Let's face it, gone are the days when you can just rely on your bachelor's degree to get a good job. So now I'm starting my first normal day job at 23, and I can't help but feel behind in some way. It's not just about being a beginner at 23, though. It's the fear of being perceived as someone who should have known XYZ already. The fear of looking slow, incompetent, or unprepared. The fear of being judged for arriving at something later than the imaginary schedule suggests. I've seen job shaming online, comments about people who clearly have never worked a real job. How are you blank years old and have never worked a job? As if there aren't many other ways to acquire skills, knowledge, and experience. I once received a comment that said, "You have to start at the bottom and you work your way up like the rest of us." Like the rest of us. A licensed therapist once told me something similar, even when I came in to talk about something completely different. She told me that the most successful and qualified CEOs started out scrubbing toilets and flipping burgers. Don't know what data backs that up. I didn't even say anything about wanting to become a CEO or climbing the corporate ladder. Like, ma'am, I came in for therapy, not a boomer-style career coaching. But words like those echo in the back of my mind even though I know better. Another time I experienced this, I think I'm scared to start, but it's actually my perception of time phenomena, is when I learned to drive. I learned to drive when I was 22. That was last year. Yeah, that was last year. It hasn't even been a full year of me having my license. I thought I had really bad driving anxiety, but reflecting on it now, the root of the matter wasn't the actual driving itself, but because I was learning at 22. My friends learned to drive in high school. In movies, 16-year-olds get cars as birthday gifts. Growing up, the message was that driving's a teenage milestone, not something you're still trying to learn in your 20s or later. Also, It never helped to be constantly asked and teased by my friends and family, when are you getting your license? Are y'all gonna buy me a car? I'm pretty sure my imposter syndrome, anxiety, and self-judgment, in addition to my fear of how other people recklessly drive, did affect my actual driving skills and confidence, but the root of the issue was still time-centered. Something I've been realizing is that much of my discomfort with beginning isn't about the beginning itself. It's about the time attached to the beginning. The idea that beginning is something you're supposed to do earlier. Beginner is treated like a category that expires. But being a beginner isn't hard. Being a beginner at what feels like the wrong time is what hurts. When you believe you're supposed to already know something, being a beginner feels like a failure instead of a natural stage of learning. The shame doesn't come from being late, it comes from believing late is even a thing. And another thing about the words begin and beginner, societal conditioning and programming frames time and life as a straight line. Beginning, middle, end, beginner, intermediate, advanced, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, school, job, marriage, retirement. If you even make it to retirement. Even the word timeline assumes a straight line, linear and one-dimensional. Life is anything but, and people bloom at different seasons. For some time, I even believed I messed up the education part of the timeline too. I'm not gonna say, college is a scam, but for a while I did hold that belief, until I realized it's not the education, but education's role in the life and timeline that we have been sold is what I actually have an issue with. I don't regret going to university. However, if I got a do-over, I definitely would do things differently, starting with not rushing into college right after high school. I would have applied and enrolled when I had a strong sense of self, one that is mine. I would not have gone to university when I was still lost in depression and was not as aware and conscious as I am now. Also, I go to university to expand my mind and pursue all my interests and the interconnectedness of it all. Seek answers to the questions that I have been shamed to never contemplate. I wouldn't go just to get a degree and check off all of my requirements as quickly as possible in the normal 4-year time frame so I could get a good job and work, slave away, for the rest of my life until I retire or until the job kills me. I'd go slower. I'd take breaks, experiment more, ask more questions, without guilt and without shame. I'd follow my energy and pursue the path that is most aligned with me. I would move according to who I am, not according to who I think I'm supposed to be by a certain age. Of course, this is a very much more nuanced topic because there are so many things to factor about pursuing higher education. But I don't regret going to school when I did, because the sequence of events I experienced and lived through is what brought me to this very moment, reading this post. I am who I currently am because of it. But that's what happens when you're raised in the linear societal timeline. I come from an environment that follows the traditional route, one that discourages asking questions because that's just the way things are. So not going to college after high school was not an option. Even if part of me knew there has to be more to life than this, or I know I don't have to do it this specific way, the external pressure can cloud everything. There's grief in realizing you didn't get to choose your own time, but that grief is also a threshold, the moment you wake up from a path you never consciously chose. Maybe that's the beauty of our 20s. They say it's supposed to be messy and chaotic, but maybe it's not messy, just untangling. Untying a knot you didn't even realize you were caught in, one made of expectations, deadlines, and inherited beliefs. The unraveling may look and feel chaotic, but the threads are loosening so you can finally breathe, move, and create something of your choosing. Something original and unique. It's like letting your shoulders drop or unclenching your jaw after holding tension for so long you forgot it wasn't natural. Allow the unraveling to happen. Don't resist, surrender. There's no need to try to speed up the process either. It may feel disorganized and chaotic, but that's because we're dismantling an entire worldview we never agreed to and letting the real shape of our life emerge underneath. But maybe we also shouldn't group certain experiences in age brackets. Your 20s are for this, your 30s for that, and when you get to your 50s, and so on and so on. Doesn't decentering time involve decentering your age? Which also influences your perception of young and old, in addition to early and late. Anyways, you can always start over whenever you choose to. And what does starting over even mean if time isn't the ruler anymore? Maybe it's not a restart, but a recalibration. Redesigning the story with a different rhythm and pace, one that is more aligned with who you are. When you decenter time, you stop seeing life as a series of missed windows and start seeing it as a landscape with infinite doors. Some open early, some open later, some you don't even notice until you're ready to walk through them or have already danced through them. Another thing I'm practicing as I decenter time is to stop giving my creativity deadlines it never agreed to, deadlines it never asked for. Last week might have been the first week I hadn't posted a video on my YouTube channel, this channel, since I started consistently uploading this year. I utilized the post feature for the first time, announcing, I don't like delays and postponing things, and I'm trying to remind and reassure myself about divine timing. What started out as a simple idea is turning a bit more complex, and I'm still finding the right words for this one. The simple idea turned complex is this project here that I'm reading out loud, or that you can read on my Substack when I link it below. And I felt a big wave of guilt and shame for what felt like breaking consistency since I didn't upload a weekly video. I received a very fitting response under that post. Shout out Faith. It's not about the timing. It's all about the message. And that just reminded me of a saying to not give your art, your creative work deadlines. They don't need deadlines. They need presence. They need devotion. They need trust. Your creativity and art transcend time. One quote that I've been loving and trying to practice is commit to the process and detach from the outcomes. Commit to the process. Immerse yourself in the process. Detach from the outcomes, the potential outcomes. Setting arbitrary deadlines can create the illusion of a false sense of urgency. I believe sometimes my sense of urgency is attached to the potential outcomes rather than immersing myself in the processes. I have an underlying fear that when I'm not on schedule, in this case, posting weekly on YouTube, people will leave, unfollow, unsubscribe. The algorithms and the attention economy demand that we are always on. And while that's true, and I sometimes do that, unfollow, unsubscribe if someone has been inactive for a while, it is something to learn to detach from because I'm attaching my worth to the approval and validation of others. So it creates the illusion of a false sense of urgency to keep posting, prioritizing quantity over quality, rushing what is actually calling for rest. And the messages won't be delivered as I truly and fully intend to. These time-centric beliefs are something I've been reflecting on and questioning more often. When I sit with the shame and fear, it becomes clear to me that none of us chose this linear timeline. We just inherited it. We were taught it before we could even question it. And we are advised and distracted to avoid questioning it. It feels like time is my best friend and my biggest op simultaneously. I'm only 23, I still have time. Versus, I'm running out of time and I've wasted my life and I've lost so much time to depression. As if time is something I can collect, store away, and spend, like money. Sometimes I feel like I have a lot, and other times I feel like I've none. It's a paradoxical relationship. I'm constantly resisting it, but also constantly learning from it. Maybe that's because time isn't an enemy or an ally. It's a mirror. It reflects whatever belief I project onto it. When I'm afraid, time feels scarce. When I'm grounded, time expands. When I strip away the pressure of early and late, I can finally see my path for what it actually is. mine. Not delayed, not off track, tracked, not off track, just unfolding in a shape I couldn't have predicted. The path only appears because I walk it. Every step I take, with every decision I make, lays the foundation. As I walk, as I dance through life, the landscape shifts with me. New doors appear, old ones close, and the terrain rearranges itself according to who I am, not who I thought I needed to be by a certain moment. And who I am is forever changing. There's something liberating about moving without a script. It's a way of navigating that feels both grounded and fluid at once. And I am here for what's unfolding. Woo, guys, reading out loud. I need to get into the habit of reading out loud more often because that was. Did you see me like gasping for air? Long time no see. It has been 2 weeks since my last post. I was actually going, like, this was the project that I was working on. It started off first as a little thing on TikTok where I was exploring like decenter your age, and then I tied in that story of me learning to drive, and then it also kind of hit me like, oh, I'm kind of going through the same thing, starting this job and stuff. And then when I started writing it down, I just started writing down a whole lot of other stuff, and I was like, I feel like I'm going off tangents or things aren't making sense, and I really just needed like a few extra days to really work on this. So, yeah, this post is called Decentering Time. I had published it yesterday, Thursday, November 20th, on my Substack. It is the one that I just read out loud right now. I will link it as well in the description if you would like to read it on your own time, if you didn't finish or watch this video or just want to look at it at some point, reference it. Yeah, that is currently where I'm at right now. A recent reflection, realization, breakthrough that I have had with starting work, starting a job, a normal day job. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if it resonates or if it didn't resonate, if you agree, if you don't agree. I mean, it's all there. It was all there in the post, so like, comment, subscribe, save save, share, repost. See you on my next video. Check in on my next video. Please take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. I know winter, the cold, dry season, the shorter days, if you're in the northern hemisphere, I know winter can be tough. It can be challenging. It's been raining the whole past week here, and it's been hard. But yes, please show yourself some extra love and care and kindness, and stay warm with your blankets, and some hot cocoa or coffee, whatever hot drink you like. Yes, please take care. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. But yes, please take care. I'll see you on my next video. I love you all so much.